In life and practice, you're forever learning lessons. But there's 3 lessons that I think have resonated with me over the years. They're those lessons that keep on coming back and back, showing their face. The first one is that you must never think that you've got it all together, because you haven't. You think that you've got all the answers to all the questions. And just when you think you're right where you should be, the questions change. And you've got to find new answers. Now, a lot of people find it very difficult to work around that, because to them it feels like there's uncertainty, and uncertainty translates into failure. It doesn't. There's a newsflash here. There's 2 certainties in life, unfortunately. And the one is we're born, and the other one is we're going to pass on. And everything else in between is subject to uncertainty. Any amount of planning can change at any time. You will never have it all together. And to think that you will, it's a fallacy. It's a fallacy. So we move on to the next lesson, which basically feeds into the first lesson. And that is, you need to be flexible. You need to be flexible. Flexibility is about grace under pressure, very often. It's about reaching your destination, but sometimes not the exact way that you planned. Now, that happens in law, it happens in life, and it probably happens in all professions. In fact, I can guarantee it happens that way. There's nothing wrong with changing your direction or your course. I'll give you an example. So you plan to go to a certain city. You work out that it's going to take you 3 hours to get there. And off you go on your merry way. Just before you get to that city, you're faced with one of those huge detour boards. And it takes you on some scenic route, extra 20 minutes of your time or whatever. But you ultimately land up in the city. There we go. You had to be flexible because you didn't actually have a choice. The road was closed and the detour was the option. Did you achieve what you intended to achieve? Yes. You arrived in the city. So that's pretty much like life in practice, life in general. Sometimes there is a detour. Smile and wave, people, because you have to be flexible. You don't have a choice. And just when you think you've got it all together and you don't have to exercise flexibility, life will teach you how you must. Might ask, what's the third lesson? The third lesson to me is that people matter. People matter. What do you mean, people matter? Of course people matter. We lose sight of that. Often lose sight of that. We're so busy in our practices, in our professions, in our life, that we fail to acknowledge the fact that behind every transaction, there's a person. So imagine going into a shop and trying to purchase something, and the salesperson is being less than accommodating, snubbing you when you eventually pay, not saying please, not saying thank you, grunting and groaning while you're there. And when you walk out, you think to yourself, what an absolutely unpleasant experience. Here's the thing. That shop keeper, teller, or whoever it was, failed to recognize that behind the transaction, in other words, the selling of the item, was a human being, a person that mattered. You were that person. You would have felt a whole lot better if the shopkeeper had said to you, good morning, good afternoon, how may I help you? This is what I can do. This is what I can do for you. Thank you for coming here. You would have walked out and felt really good. Really good. Because that person invested in you as a person. They showed that you mattered. Now, please, even though sometimes in the legal profession we may not even meet our clients, depending on which role you're playing, never lose sight of the fact that behind that brief is a person in some manner or form. Never lose sight of the fact that while you might be punting an argument in court, you might actually be losing yourself, a person. So people matter. In a world where AI is taking over, I can find nothing more irritating than speaking to a bot, or a bot speaking to me on a telephone. Why? Why is it so offensive? Because that bot is not acknowledging me as a person. And I'm unable to interact personally with that bot. So it has its place, but it can never be replaced by the personal interaction. So I'm saying to you, think about the 3 lessons. I'm very sure that these are not just lessons that apply to me. I'm very sure that if you think about it, each one of those lessons are lessons that you can learn as well. You don't have it all worked out. You need to be flexible. And you never need to lose sight of the fact that there are people that feed into whatever it is that you are doing in this world. It's been such a pleasure to share this pause with you today. Remember, your voice matters. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the bell for the next tea adjournment.